Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I want to thank all of you for showing up today. Today we're going to address my video called MUGA, Stop Breaking Up Big Tech in the US. I want to do a follow-up on this because I had a lot of well-informed responses on both sides. And to the contrarians out there, you had great responses too. I want to address some of the issues that you brought up. I thought there was a lot of great stuff brought up and I had to properly address it. So that's what I'm going to do right here. First, I want to give a shout out to everybody who has smashed that like button. Thank you very much. We have reached 900 subscribers. I appreciate it. I couldn't have done without all of you out there. And if you haven't subscribed, then why haven't you? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. Now, getting on to this topic. When we look at the Sherman Act, which was the first thing that many of you brought up, the history of this, that's a little bit antiquated when we discuss these cases being brought forth today with technology. And let me explain why. Now, I do want to preface that I haven't looked into each and every case against big tech right now. There's a lot of them going on. I don't have that kind of time. However, I'm very familiar with Alphabet's case. And I want to talk about the nature of open source code because it is so relevant in these multiple antitrust cases that are being brought towards Alphabet. And I do want to preface what I'm going to say here with the fact that this isn't true for all the other big tech companies, okay? It is partially with Meta and stuff, but it's not true for each and every one of them. But for Alphabet, it's very true, and it's very critical to understand. And so when I talk about open source, a lot of you may not understand it. So basically, source code is how you develop software. Any piece of software out there that you have has source code that compiles and turns into the software that you use, okay? And if we look at the source code, like anything, it's on a spectrum as far as what we call usability. And what I mean by usability is how developers can use it, well, how they're allowed to use it. And all the way over to the right, the farthest right, you have completely closed, locked down source code. This would be like Apple, Oracle, where only people that are allowed to use their source code or even their systems are Apple, Oracle people, right? And even those people can only use it on the projects that are allowed to. And they can only use it for what they're specified at work, and so on and so forth. Over on the other side, the far left, you have what's called copyleft, which was developed by Richard Stallman. I think he developed it. And he created something called the GNU operating system. And copyleft is so open that whenever you develop any source code, if you were to use this source code, you are free to use it, right? So in copyleft, we create open source software. That means that anybody else is free to take the source code and modify it and use it how they want. But with copyleft, whatever you derive from that, from using it, you also have to open that back up to the community and make that copyleft so everybody has to use that, okay? And while this is a terrific idea, it doesn't work in a commercial scenario because what ends up happening, of course, is that anything that's developed on far copyleft, commercial entities want to stay away from because they're putting money and effort into it, but then everybody else gets to use their works and they see no return. Now you might say, wait a second, I thought you said these companies nowadays are using open source. They are, but they're using a different version of it. They're not using the farthest left version of it, okay? This started with Sun Microsystems. If you're a tech guy from the 90s, shout out to you. You're gonna remember who Sun was. A great company, Solaris operating system. They had the best stuff. But they had hired a guy named James Gosling, and he developed Java, the Java programming language. I'm just bringing this up because this is a very familiar programming language. Some might say the second or third most widely used language in the world, behind maybe JavaScript and like C++. That's systems are programmed in. And Java, when it was developed, the Java SE Standard Edition, it was developed completely open source. However, what they did is they didn't make it GNU. They didn't make it copyleft. They released it under a different license where they then said that whatever you can derive works from it And I'm not going to name the license because one, I don't remember off the top of my head, and two, there's a tons of different licenses now, so I don't want to get it wrong. But there's different elements of you can use it and you can derive works from it, but some of the works that you derive with it, or that you can use it in works, and you can keep those works closed to you. Okay. And so this makes it more attractive to companies because in a way it's like you can put your own flavor on it. So it's like I can't fundamentally alter the code for some of them, or some of them I can do whatever I want with, but I can keep whatever I derive from it or I use it in. I can keep that closed to me. I don't have to release it back. But they have some versions where if you alter like the code itself, the process that's open, you do have to release that back. So like I said, there's a lot of different versions. But the basics that all you got to know is that the Java programming language was considered open source, where that it was maintained by Oracle and anybody else could contribute to it. Okay. But, or sorry, not Oracle. Oracle bought Sun later. It was maintained by Sun. Anybody else could contribute to it. Sun had the stewardship of it, though. They led the direction. But if you wanted to, you could have copied the whole source code and did Java on your own. And many people did. But what they did was they developed a little bit of secret sauce they put on top of there, and that's what they sold to their clients. Because when Sun first came out, they tried to do some stuff with the Stallman method of completely copyleft, but that just didn't work. If you think about it, it's not going to work in human nature, because this comes to the MUGA philosophy of make us great again. When you look at game theory, when you look at true anarcho-capitalism, cooperation with other people is always in your best interest. It always is. Do unto others as you would see fit done unto you. Not in a reasonable and logical way. Not, oh, I like pain, other people like pain. No, that's not logical. Okay? Yeah, use your brain a little bit. That's basically what MUGA is about. That's basically what anarcho-capitalism is about. It's a capitalism where you say, how would others want to be treated in this deal? It's not a zero-net game where one side wins, one side loses. It's how can we both win? The prisoner's dilemma. How does everybody win? Game theory optimization. Okay? Always leads to the fact that cooperating with others is in your best interest. Okay? But it's only going to be in your best interest. The only way this can happen is if others are on this mindset. Okay? If they're not, they screw everybody else over. And that was what was happening to Sun. So they went on to far copyleft. Nobody was helping them out. They're doing all the work. The only way they're making money, because everybody else is closed, charging money for it, like Microsoft. Sun isn't. It's free to use, free to copy, whatever. The only way they're making money is on servicing the product. But then if you're Microsoft or someone else, since it's open source, you can copy it, you can learn it, and you can compete with Sun and servicing it too. So that's why they closed it. They ended up closing it a little bit more to offer their secret sauce. But it ended up being too late for Sun for them to learn this lesson. And it wasn't just that, they had some other disasters too. And they ended up selling out to Oracle, who was the complete opposite. It was kind of a sad day for all of us who love Sun. Sun was extremely innovative. Oh, they did so many amazing things. It was a great, great company. But they sold to Oracle, which was the worst company they could possibly sell to. A completely closed source, just terrible company. And Oracle, when they did this, they took that secret sauce part of Java, and they knew that under the previous management, what was his name? Jonathan, I can't remember his name. Jonathan Stewart, I think his name was the last CEO. He was kind of letting a lot of people use Java because he's trying to get Java SE on phones. Java SE Standard Edition is what you built applets with, what you built all these little kind of like widget-like programs on desktops that was interoperable. You could program one once, right, anywhere type of thing. And then people would get like a JVM on their machine, and then didn't matter if you had a Mac or Windows or whatever, you could run it. It didn't work that great, but it worked pretty good for back at the time. And Google came out and they developed the Android operating system off of this. But they were a little worried, even though Jonathan Stewart had given them the blessing to use Java, including some of the secret sauce. They had internal discussions where they were worried about this because they knew that, something could happen like what was going to happen, where they could get bought out and somebody else would change their mind. So they went ahead and they rewrote Java, but they kept all the API calls, right? So they kept all the header files and API calls from Java. They copied those, and then they rewrote all the methods. Now imagine the effort in this. You're talking about rewriting multiple millions of lines of code. It might even be tens of millions of lines of code. But even back then, Google had a ton of money, so of course they could do it. But out of this effort of probably over 10 million lines of code, they copied like 11 to 13,000 lines that were API headers, which were considered secret sauce and were closed source. And so this case, Oracle sued them and said, hey, you're infringing on us. This was copyrighted works. And they wanted a portion of Android's proceeds. But understand that Android doesn't have any direct proceeds. Android is 100% open source. AOSP, Android Open Source Project. And so Google does the same thing where that project is open source. Anybody can go out and use it. You can go to AOSP right now, copy it, make your own derived works off of it, and call it your project and never release anything back. So it's kind of the one again with the secret sauce method. But they indirectly make money off of it because they have their own secret sauce, which they call the Google software that they put on top of it, and they keep people into their ecosystem, right? So they get you on Gmail, all these things, and then they build ad revenue off of you. And so Oracle is saying, hey, we deserve some of that because you're using our copyrighted works. And the first judge who overheard the case, William Alsop in San Francisco, he went out and taught himself how to program. And he found out that what Oracle was claiming is they wanted these APIs. They were saying those are copyrightable. And he's saying that's nonsense. What an API is basically just a generic header that you call. So it's just like telling, like, I know if you don't program it, think of it like this. If you tell your kid, walk, they start walking. Or you tell your dog, sit, dog sits. Whatever. We have commands like that in programming. And a lot of them are like that. We have some that are called CRUD, create, read, update, delete, just straightforward, right? API name calls. And Oracle was saying these are copyrightable, these name calls. And Alsop's like, what are you talking about? These are generic. How can you copyright something like this? He's like, this is nonsense. You know what I mean? Which it should be. It'd be like me saying the sit command to a dog is copyrightable. And then everybody who says sit now owes me money. It's absolutely insane, right? And so it looked like this was going to be an open and shut case, right? Because it was really obvious that those of us who develop, just like print, every programming language has a print function where you tell the computer to print something out. And that's, you can say that's an API call within the system, right? And so Oracle would say that print function, that is copyrightable. You can't use the word print. It's ours. It's what? It makes no sense. But anyways, Alsop found in favor of Google, and we all thought it would be done. But of course not. Oracle has tons of money, so they kept suing, went to the higher court. You got these three old fogies on this court, knew nothing about technology. And of course, they ruled against Google. Not one of them went out like Alsop did, taught themselves how to program. None of them understood it. They wrote the worst decision ever. And so this court case dragged on for 10 years, and it had major implications. Okay, because understand that two things are at issue here. One, are these types of things copyrightable? Because if they are, we're in a world of hurt. And two, if they're copyrightable, can you use them? Can you use them under fair use? Right? Because if you can't do that even, then that throws into question literally the entire world's worth of software. I mean, for real. it would upend everything, right? But Oracle doesn't care because they know how much is written in Java. And let me tell you, they would have went after everybody. Okay, and you would have seen a true anti-competitive behavior there. But of course, it wouldn't be anti-competitive because that's just how America works. But anyways, went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court did not rule on if it was copyrightable or not. They left that open, but they acted as if it was, and said that even if it was, what Google did, and that they only, that 11, 13,000 lines was only like 0.4% of what they copied. So they copied like 10 million or something. And they also said that it wasn't substantial. Two, it was transformative, because even though they called it Java, it's not actually Java. They rewrote all of Java. It's just amazing when you hear this, but it's called Java because they have written every API to it. So it's just as if you're using Java. You, the end user, don't know. And they use it in a vastly different way, right? Because Oracle was trying to claim they were on mobile devices, but they really weren't. Okay? And so luckily for us, 6-2, with only like Clarence Thomas, crazy Clarence, of course, and I forgot who else, maybe Alito, voting against it. Everybody else was for it. And they decided to leave the idea of copyrightability open till later. And nobody's dared to bring that yet. And I hope nobody does. Not until we get some younger justices that actually understand something about development. So, anyways, open source then was at the heart of this, okay? The idea that I can take my time and effort, I put it into something, I open source it, we all contribute to it, we all make it better, but then we have little elements of it. We don't make it the copy left, so far left, where we can't benefit from it a little bit. We have the ability, right, to layer stuff on top of it to make derived works from it. And then we can build a model on top of that, okay? This wasn't around when the Sherman Act came out, okay? So I want to bring this up because one of the many antitrust cases against Google right now is asking them to divest from Chrome, which is based off of the Chromium open source project, and Android, which is based off of, like I said, the Android OSP. Okay, both which, if Google was forced to divest, would make all of our tech experiences worse. 100% guaranteed. And even some Google competitors that brought this case against Google, even some of them are saying, hold on here, this is not good for the industry. Before Chrome came and just lit everything, on fire, the browser world, Microsoft Internet Explorer had the largest market share. It was completely closed source. It was completely junk. It was just, if you're a developer, we used to laugh back in those days at how terrible IE was. It was just like this internal joke with us. Oh, gotta develop for IE4 and all this stuff. It's just absolutely crap. Okay? They were not forced by any competition, right? There was nobody competing against them. They were the largest one in there. There's some small players out there, but nobody had the money and the capital to compete against Microsoft that time, right? And Microsoft actually went through an antitrust case with this, but the antitrust case didn't do anything. That's not what beat Internet Explorer. What beat Internet Explorer is Google coming along and saying, this closed source product is too slow to move. You can't have one company directing this because it's too slow, it's not agile enough, it's too stagnant. We're going to release an open source browser that everybody can contribute to. We'll guide it, but anybody can take it and make their own versions of it if they think we're wrong. And that's the beauty of open source, because people did that. People came in and they said, nope, Google, we don't like how you're doing it. So now you have all these different browsers that are made from the Chromium source base that have nothing to do with Google, right? With Google's Chrome. They use Chromium, but remember, Chromium isn't owned by Google. they probably contribute the most to it, of course, but other people, plenty of other people contribute, and they don't own it. Anybody can go there anytime and copy the entire thing of Chromium. Okay? But Chrome came and it took the internet by storm, and it completely revolutionized and improved the internet. That is without question. The internet now is more competitive and open than it ever was under the previous model of closed source browsing. Okay? And understand that there is a lot of, even back in the old days, you had open source browsers, but they were not user friendly in any way. Okay? And most people did not use them. But look what happened now. So it wasn't the government coming in and suing Microsoft that broke up that competition. What it was Google coming in, innovating, disrupting them with open source. And in full, what you could only call the most ironic moment, when Satya Nadella came in, under his directionship, Microsoft finally killed off Internet Explorer and released their new browser. And guess what it's based off of? It's based off of Chromium. Okay? They're basing it off of Google's open source Chromium project. So how is that? You tell me how that is anti-competitive when your own competitor is using something that you're offering, that you put out there, you started, Google has literally probably at this point invested hundreds of millions, if not even over $1 billion into the Chromium open source project with all the work they've done over the years. Maybe $1 billion would be high, but there's a lot of man hours on that. Okay? And a lot of other people contribute to it too. $1 billion might be high. I don't know. Developers get paid a lot. And the kind of developers Google have get paid even a lot more. So it could be close to that. But you're saying that's anti-competitive when they created Vivaldi, all these new browsers are out there. You and I can go make a browser right now. We can grab Chromium, save ourselves a year or two of work by grabbing Chromium, which Google put out there, and making a browser to compete against them. And you're saying that's anti-competitive? And that would be better if they don't do that? And Sam Altman now is looking at the chops because he wants to take that and he wants to destroy it and close it up? That's competitive? That's going to make us better, is to have Sam Altman with Open AI, which is the most closed AI out there, come in and close off Chromium so only he can benefit from it? And then it's going to become the new Internet Explorer, and innovation is going to stifle on the web again? That's going to be what we want? That's why these people who even brought the case against Google, some of them, are like, wait a second, this is going a little too far, because they know what Google did for them. Google was one of the largest contributors to Mozilla. They're also looking at stopping these payments Google makes to people. Mozilla wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Google. Okay? Google funds their own competitor. Mozilla is an open source. It's a free, what do you call that? Nonprofit. The nonprofit version of it. They donate, I think one year that I saw they donated like 97 million. Okay? So you tell me how that is going to open things up, how that's going to make the playing field more competitive when Google doesn't have Chromium, when Sam Altman buys their right to contribute. Because remember, Google won't be able to contribute to it. They're the ones directing it. Sam Altman comes in and shuts things up or shuts things off, or Microsoft does the same thing. And nobody's contributing to the open source version anymore, because you do need that big guy to come in and contribute that dollars. And they're going to strip out all the good stuff and leave us with nothing. And they're going to close it off. And what you're saying, that's going to be competitive to me? That's not how it works. It's competitive right now because Google is constantly in there updating that. Yes, again, anybody can contribute to it. You can go on there. You can bug fix. You can release a new feature. You can groom the backlogs, whatever. You can contribute. A lot of people do. And other companies contribute. But Google is the one that takes the lead on it. And I don't think anybody else would if they didn't. Okay, not in that way. Microsoft has been adopting a little bit of open source now because they realize they have to. They realize that's the future, and it has benefited them greatly. But at their heart, they're still a closed source company. Okay? And they want to get to buy it anyways. It'd be like Sam Altman. He would probably get to buy it. And if he got it, he's Elon 2.0. Carnival Barker. I mean, he wants to be the next Elon. So he'll be like, oh, yeah, I'll keep it as is. And then he'll go in there, he'll strip it down. You watch. That's the one thing Elon was right about, Sam, is that OpenAI isn't open at all. Okay? So let me know how that makes the internet more open to have something like that happen. And then what about Android? Android's the same way. Okay? Right now, Amazon uses Android for their Fire tablets. Okay? Right now, many people use Android. They can release their own skin, release a phone, whatever they want. They don't have to use the Google services on there. I think nothing doesn't use anything from Google right off the bat on there. Okay? So let me know how divesting Android from Google, or someone else can take control of it, kill it off, close it, and then all these other people, if I want to start a phone company, I have to come in from scratch and develop my own operating system, which is pretty much an impossible task these days. Okay? Whereas right now, if I come in, I can come in with just a few guys, and at least we have Android as a starting point. And we don't have to use Google services. Yeah, it would be compelling, and that would lock us into Google, but we don't have to. We can add a different email browser. We can add a different internet browser. We can add another Chromium-based internet browser. We could add Proton email, things like that. But trying to replace the operating system, that's tough. It's virtually impossible. If someone comes in and destroys that, they're going to destroy the market. The market, the only reasons there's any openness in the market right now is because of the Android open source project. And if they're going to make them do that, how does Apple get to keep a completely closed source iOS that has the majority share in America, where they lock everything down on it? So this is the stuff I wonder. This is the stuff where I look at it and I say this antiquated law, it just doesn't fit with nowadays. Okay. And again, I haven't looked into every tech company. I haven't looked into every single case. But I don't think it's in our best interest to break up what's definitely some of the most innovative companies in the world. Do we really want Google not writing the transformer paper that has brought generative LLMs to the level that they are right now? Sam Altman's company wouldn't exist without that paper. Neither would Anthropic. Neither were any of these generative LLMs. They released a revolutionary paper that kickstarted that. Okay, do we really want Meta not releasing Llama? Look at what the Chinese did with Llama. And they open sourced it right back to us with DeepSeek, who found new innovative methods, but they had Llama to start with. We don't want people finding that innovation and contributing back. I don't think people understand what's going on here. This isn't an oil company. It's not, I own these wells are mine. You're talking about an oil company that's saying, hey, you can come and pump at my well. Okay, you can come and pump at my well. These are my wells. And I know it sounds weird, but it's tech. It's different. If you're going to be at my wells, you can pump all you want. But I have the services to provide you while you're there. And you don't have to use them. I'm trying to think of an analogy. It's really hard to. Okay? But it's hard to compare it to standard oil. Standard oil is a physical. It deals with physicality. Google deals in software. So it's hard to compare that. Okay? It's not AT&T. AT&T was closed to the max. Standard Oil, you would say, is closed. Again, I think that's not a bad idea. Analogy with the oil field. Okay, I have an oil field. I'm developing this right now in my head. I have an oil field, and I say you can use it. You can pump the oil from it. Wouldn't that be crazy? But that's kind of like Android open source, right? You can use it, but I have the secret sauce for pumping it out of the ground. And you're able to use that, but then you have restrictions that you have to agree to with me. They don't even charge for AOS either, or for their Google services. So that's even weirder. It's too hard. It's too hard. But it would be like, okay, like that. Because they get people in their ecosystem. They make money off of their ecosystem. All these things they offer are for free. They benefit by us being on the free and open web, which is why they want to keep the free and open web. That's what I got for you guys. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you like this kind of content, please hit the like button down below. Have a great day.